I've worked with hundreds of businesses to improve sales on their websites, from solo and small businesses all the way up to Fortune 500 brands like Microsoft, McDonald's, and Adidas. And the thing is, most websites, no matter the size of the business, might look great, but still struggle to turn browsers into buyers because the psychology behind why people buy hasn't been built into the beautiful design. And when you get that sales, marketing, and buyer psychology right, really small changes can lead to huge lifts in conversions and sales. That's why in this video, I'm going to walk you through 3 marketing psychology hacks that you can apply to your small business website today to get more people to buy without resorting to cheap tricks or manipulation. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what to look for on your own site and the 3 simple changes you can make to capture thousands and maybe millions more in sales every single month. So let's start with the mistake that like 95% of small business websites are making right now. You're just making people think too hard. Here's a quick test that you can do to see if this is happening on your site. If you show someone your homepage headline and they have to read it like twice or 3 times to understand what you sell, you've already killed a sale because you've created what's called processing friction for your users. In other words, you made them think too hard. And this happens for a really understandable reason, because most business owners think that their website needs to sound like fancy to land premium clients. So they end up with headlines like elevating your wellness journey through transformative beauty experiences. And that sounds very fancy. It also means almost nothing to somebody who just wants to know, do you do Botox? And if they can't answer that right away, they just bounce, because our brains have a preference for information that's easy to understand and remember. It's a really important marketing psychology concept called cognitive fluency. When something is easy to understand, using specific concrete language, and we don't need to translate it or guess at what it means, it makes us feel like we can trust this brand. Using straightforward language makes it feel like you know exactly what you're going to get. But when your messages or your headline are really abstract, or they use like confusing, kind of opaque language, buyers have a harder time trusting it, whether they realize it or not. Here's a quick example. A confusing headline could be something like, curating bespoke skincare solutions for the discerning modern woman. A clear, concrete, easy to understand headline would be something like, custom anti-aging facials that take 10 years off your skin in 30 days. The second one doesn't require a lot of mental effort. That's not the same as dumbing down your message. That's understanding how buyers' brains work and then designing your website to work with their natural tendencies and not against them. When you're thinking about the copy on your website and specifically the headlines, I want you to make sure that people can understand 3 things right away: what you sell, who it's for, and what to do next. But here's the thing. You can have a totally concrete and very clear website and still struggle to make sales. Because even when people understand what you sell, they might not be ready to trust you yet. Our second website sales psychology hack is to get specific. And this is a trap that I see businesses of all sizes falling into every single day. Avoiding getting too specific with your language because you're afraid to exclude anyone or miss out on potential sales. So you end up with really soft, kind of like general, generic language that doesn't really work for anybody. And that means it's not helping you convert any browsers to buyers because you're afraid you might miss out on a small portion of those buyers. So here's an example of what I mean. A generic headline that doesn't exclude for a skincare brand could be something like, our skincare treatments give you beautiful, glowing skin. Now, on the surface, that's not bad, but it's just not very interesting or spiky, and it doesn't really hook anybody in. Now, I want you to compare that one with something more specific and concrete, like our over 40 facials reduce fine lines by 60% after just 3 treatments. The owner might have seen that second one and said, well, what about people under 40 or people who have skin damage? If they read this, are they going to think that we don't have anything for them? But you can see how calling out concrete specifics like over 40 and fine lines makes this a much more compelling headline. This is a great example of what's called concrete language. So language that's vivid and specific, that uses numbers and details. And studies have found that using concrete language like this can actually increase sales between 200 and 1,000%, which sounds wild, but it kind of makes sense. Our brains just love specific details. It gives them something to hook onto, and it captures our interest. Not to mention that being specific signals expertise in the thing that you're being specific about. So using concrete language isn't about narrowing your customer base. It's more about increasing your credibility and sellability to the right people. And by the way, if you're new here, hi, I'm Jen. I'm a buyer psychology and business consultant who's helped my clients create more than $250 million in sales and $10 million in investment using the power of buyer, sales, and marketing psychology. If you're enjoying this video, I'd appreciate it if you could drop a quick like and subscribe. I actually drop a couple videos like this every single week with practical tips like these for businesses who want to sell more, faster, using marketing, sales, and buyer psychology. Now, even if your website is clear and concrete, there's still one more psychology principle that I see hold back so many beautiful websites from achieving greatness, by which I mean selling more of whatever it is that you happen to sell. And this is the one most small business owners actually completely overlook. It's making sure you're talking about them, the buyer, and not you, the business. Now, people don't buy when they understand your products. They buy when they understand your products and when they feel understood and they recognize themselves or who they want to become in your images, your messages, your headlines, your products, and your offers. Most small business websites are built around the business. So their origin story, their unique products, their special techniques or credentials, and like all of that might be true. And it is stuff that you need to include on your website, by the way. But the main message needs to be focused on your buyer's self-interest. This is just down to the fact that a lot of our attention and action is driven by self-interest. And there are a few psychological principles behind why that is. The cocktail party effect is a big one. It says we naturally pay attention to information that's relevant to us, so that speaks to our identity, or uses like relevant or personalized information. So for example, a chiropractor's website that keeps this self-interest bias in mind shouldn't focus on how qualified the chiros are. It should focus on how their qualifications help you reduce back pain and improve your life. A fashion brand should focus on how sporty or beautiful you'll feel in their clothes and the aspirational identity people are trying to achieve by buying from them, not the materials that the clothes are made out of and the founder's story. Again, all of those things are perfectly fine to include on the website, but the balance and focus is what's going to determine if it's centering the buyer or if it's centering the business. When a website focuses on the business and tries to prove to their potential buyers that the business is the best, not that they're doing something for the buyer or helping the buyer get something that they want, whether that's an outcome or an identity, it's actually sending an invisible psychological signal that says, this is about us. But when a website reflects the buyer's exact internal experience back at them, when they read a line and they think something like, that's exactly how I feel about my skin, you're starting to engage and speak to these people's emotions, not just their logical brain. And emotions are the most powerful drivers of decisions and behavior, including deciding what to buy. Now I'm going to share 3 really important questions that you need to ask yourself to figure out if your website is already using these sales psychology hacks, good job, or if it needs to be tweaked slightly to capture more of those sales that you're missing out on. And by the way, this is the type of work I do every single day with my clients inside of one-on-one coaching and my program, Chief Business Co-Pilot, where I share the exact tools and strategies I've used to create more than $250 million in sales for my clients. And I help you install the same psychology-based business operating system in your business step by step. To learn more and apply to join the waitlist, just visit chiefbusinesscopilot.com. Okay, so on to our sales psychology sense check. Before you change a single word on your website, I want you to start by asking yourself these 3 questions. Question 1, could a complete stranger land on your homepage of your website and immediately know what you sell and who it's for within 3 seconds? Now, I call this the 3-second test, by the way, and I do it with all my clients who want to improve their website or landing page sales. Question 2, is your messaging concrete and specific, or do you tend to use vague, opaque language instead? And question 3, does your website spend more words explaining your process, your story, your purpose, or your credentials, or describing the buyer's problems and the outcome or identity that they want to get after buying whatever it is that you sell? The thing is, most websites aren't failing to sell because they aren't pretty. They're failing because they're designed to look good, but not sell based on how people actually buy. So sales, marketing, and buyer psychology. And if you can nail that, then beautiful design is just the icing on the cake. If you like this video, then YouTube thinks you're going to love this one next. I'm Jen Clinehens, and I'll see you in the next one.